Hey, y'all, welcome back to the podcast. It's Shane Sams here. Great to have you back again this week as we help you start, build, and grow an online business of your own right here on the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. I've got another amazing expert on the show today to help you with a subject you may not have thought a lot about, your payment processing. Now, I know that doesn't sound too exciting. Payment processing. That's on the next episode of the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast, payment processing. But here's the deal, y'all. Here's the deal. If you can't process a payment, you don't have a business, period, online or offline. And if you don't know about payment processing, you can get yourself into trouble. Like there's some horror stories and things that can happen if you're not paying attention to your payment processing. It's not just getting something that will work. That's not how it works. Like, did you know that a payment processor at any time, for any reason, can just turn your payment processing off? They can just decide, man, we're not going to work with you anymore. And then you're not able to take payments. You're not able to let people give you money. You're not able to sell your courses. You're not able to sell your coaching. You're not able to sell your membership communities. Like, you're not able to do it if you can't process payments. And they have the power to just turn you off. And a lot of times with these payment processors, you don't even have the ability to ask them a question or talk to them or ask them why. And did you know that the payment processor at any time can just take all your payments, collect them, and hold them indefinitely, 60, 90, 120 days? I know that these are things happen because they've happened to me and Jocelyn and even Flipped Lifestyle in the past. One time we had a payment processor hold $50,000 and they just said, we'll give it back to you when we decide to. And there's just nothing you can do about it. And we had nobody to like represent us. We didn't have anybody that was there that could be our payment processor, could be our liaison, could be that person for us. We didn't know about how payment processing really could affect your business in both the most positive ways possible and the most negative ways. And, you know, if you look out on the landscape of the digital payment processing world, you know, we all know that there's fees for having a payment processor. Like if you sign up for Stripe or you sign up for PayPal, you know, you'll go to their website and they'll say, hey, you know, we get 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction or something. Like they're just taking, like if you make $100, nope, you make 97. Like, so if you get a business that grows and scales, these payment processors take a ton of the money. But I found out that there was better ways to do it. I found out there was ways to pay less on your payment processing. I found out that there are ways to keep them from holding your money. I found out there were ways to get your money back if they did hold it. And I found out that there were tons more options out there that you could use for payment processing in your online business than what we see when we do that first page search in Google. And I found these things out by talking to our amazing guest today, our expert guest, Karla Dembik. Karla Dembik has a fascinating backstory, y'all. She has the craziest backstory I think I've ever heard. She was in the military. She flew Blackhawk helicopters. She was an intelligence officer. She worked for huge payment processors and companies and security. And she did all these amazing things that she's done. And it's all led to what she does now, which is she runs a payment processing company called Phoenix Payment Processing. Phoenix Payment Processing is a family, female, veteran-owned business that Karla built after she got out of her stint in the Marine Corps and in the Army. She basically started her own payment processor and she started connecting with entrepreneurs to not only help them figure out how to take payments and solve their payment processing stuff, solve the issues they have with payment processing, but also to like educate them and talk to them and kind of coach people through the process of getting your payment processor set up. And when I heard Karla's story, when I met Karla and when I talked to her, I said, man, I've got to bring you on the podcast because everyone who ever makes any money online will have to use a payment processor to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about on today's Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. We're going to talk all about payment processors. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, the good, the bad. We're going to talk about how to make the best possible decision for you about which payment processor is going to work for you and your online business. And we're going to kind of talk about the tricks of the trade. Like, what do these big payment processors do? Why do they charge so much? And how can you save money on your payment processing? I learned a ton of information from Karla today, things I didn't even think of with payment processing. I know my business is going to be better for it, and I know yours is going to be as well. So thank you so much. I appreciate you for listening to every episode of this podcast. Turn that volume up and enjoy the show. Hello, Karla. How are you?
Hi, Shane. I'm good. How are you doing?
I am excited because you have the craziest background of all time in the history of the world. And I think this is just going to be amazing. And like, it sounds so nerdy and boring, but like, I am so fascinated with payment processing lately. Like, you have no idea. So I'm just really pumped that I get to talk to someone who's an actual expert in this. But we got to, how in the world did you become a helicopter pilot? I am so afraid of getting on a helicopter. Like, I'm not afraid to admit this. I can get on a plane. I fly all the time. I speak all over the country. I do all these things. But like helicopters, my wife was Jocelyn was trying to set us up on a helicopter ride to this like island on a vacation. And I'm like, is there a boat? Because I don't want to do that. Tell me about becoming a helicopter pilot, because that's fascinating to me.
Let's see. It started, both my parents are pilots and they fly airplanes. And my mom used to take me up when I was a kid and I would fall asleep. I would just be bored out of my mind with just, flying around and just doing nothing. So I was like, helicopters are cool. They're not, the physics of it. If you want to get, geek out into it.
I will geek out on the physics of helicopters right now. Tell me how it works. So how do you go in 3 dimensions? What is happening right now?
You just get to pause in midair. I mean, how cool is that? You're just like suspended in midair just because of the amazing physics of everything. And that to me was more fascinating than just continuously flying. Like, I want to stop, I want to turn, I want to look around. And it was just so neat. So when I had an opportunity in the military to change from being an intelligence officer over to flying helicopters, I took it and I never looked back. It was amazing.
What branch of the military were you in?
I was in both the Marine Corps and the Army.
Okay, how does that work? I didn't know you could do that, because you can go like back and forth. Like, how do you end up in one and then the other? Like, did you start with one and you're like, meh? Or was somebody like, hey, you need to be over here, and they like trade like a draft or something? Like, what? Like, how does that happen where you bounce back and forth?
I wish it was a draft, but I went the wrong way.
the U.S. Marines in the first pick of the military draft takes Karla Dembik.
Right? Yeah, first round draft right there. I was 17. And I knew from a very young age, the military was my purpose. It was just instilled in me. And, 17 years old, for guys, you got something to prove. Well, it occurs for me too. I'm like, oh, I got something to prove. I'm tough, right? So I'll go to the hardest branch of the military. So I went when I was 17. I did my time in the Marine Corps, loved it, absolutely loved it. And I got out and I was like, okay, well, let me see what else is out here. Let me see what else I want to do. And I didn't find anything I liked. So I went to college and I had a good family friend at the time who worked in the Pentagon. And I said, this is what I want to do. How do I get there? And he gave me a roadmap of this is what you need to do in order to go be, at that time, I wanted to be an intelligence officer. And so I went to college, I got my degree, and then I started going, I really miss the military. There is something about it. There's just, serving others and helping people and just the camaraderie that you have with strangers. It's an immediate family. And I loved that. And I love that there's always a mission and you're just go, go, go. And it was never the same day. You'd always have a different day. And that was exciting to me. So I went to college and I started talking to a bunch of different branches. I was going to go back in the Marines, but it was kind of a roll the dice on what your job would be. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to get stuck doing supply or inventory. I wanted a little more control over what I wanted to do. So gotcha. I talked to the Army and they were like, I said, listen, I want to be an intelligence officer. I want to go do this. And they said, okay. And they basically handed it to me on a silver platter. And I was like, okay. Wow. And, at the time, you just pray about it too. And you're like, all right, Lord, open the doors, close the doors. Let me see, what's going to open. And I took it and I went with it. And it was an amazing, amazing career.
So basically it opens up into being a pilot. Like you get to transfer over. Did someone say, hey, you're a great intelligence officer and then you want to be a pilot? Or did you get to be both at the same time? How does that work?
The cool thing is, no, you're not supposed to, but for some reason I was, and I kind of defied the odds of being able to switch as an officer who had about 8 years as an intelligence officer. And I was like, I got really burnt out on one of my deployments. And I said, I need to change. I want to help people instead of tracking down the bad guys.
Right.
I just wanted to do something different. And I met an incredible group of people who were medevac pilots when I was in Iraq. And they became my best friends. And they're still my best friends to this day. And I said, I want to go fly helicopters. Like, I can do this. I totally want to do this. And so one of my friends, Corey, he helped me put my packet together. I had to go in front of like generals to plead my case, basically saying, I know
Holy
I'm going to.
Smokes.
Yeah, it was
no
intense.
Pressure. Right?
None at all.
None at all.
I was like, I just want to fly helicopters. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll get it. And then they're like, okay, here's your orders, go. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Here, we're going to trust you with this multi-million-dollar Blackhawk helicopter. Have fun.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was like, I can't believe this actually worked.
That's amazing. So how long did you get to fly in the military before you got out? And we'll talk about what you did next. But like did you get so you were an officer for 8 years. So you flew helicopters for like 6 years, like in the military or something like that? 5 or 6?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish. I only flew for a handful of years, for like 2-3 years. Okay. And then I made the transition. And it was during like, do you remember back in like 2013-ish timeframe? Like we had, people who weren't in the government, we had sequestration. So like they were.
Oh yeah, I do remember this.
Yeah. So
yeah, my buddy works at a ATF.
Oh, and, okay.
All that had to happen. He went through that. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So that's what cut my time short from flying is sequestration hit. They couldn't pay pilots anymore and they were getting rid of people. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what else, I can do.
Do you still fly sometimes? Do you get to fly helicopters? Do you go and do any flying just for fun? Just like, I don't know, rent a helicopter and go fly it? Or is there a tour? Is there like like we go down to like Gatlinburg, Tennessee a lot. There's a place down here and they have helicopter tours of the mountains. And I'm like, how does this person become this as their career? Like, what do you do all day? I just fly around with people, like, do you ever fly any?
I do. So one of my other friends has a flight school and I go fly with him. Yeah. So I fly with him when I'm bored and I'm just like, I just need to be in the air. I just need to go fly. I need the freedom. I need to feel that again. And I've been looking into getting my own helicopter, which is actually a lot more cost effective than you would think.
I've looked into this. I've looked into things. My buddy just started pilot lessons with airplanes.
Oh,
and
cool.
and I think that's cool. But like, I almost feel like if I was ever going to do that, I would pick helicopter only because I'm so afraid of it. And like, I need to pick the thing I'm the most afraid of. Cause I look at them and I'm like, that looks like instant upside down death. That's what that looks like. And like, so I don't know why, because I fly all the time, like on airplanes. And but I think if I ever choose to fly something or pick how to learn it, I'm going to pick the helicopter just because I know it terrifies me so much.
You should do it.
Get over it.
You should do it. Yeah. I'll take you on. You'll be safe.
You pay me. You will be my flight instructor, my Blackhawk helicopter flight instructor. So you get out and now what happens next? I know you got it. You start moving toward the financial industry where you're just looking for something. Like, how do you end up in the fintech kind of world?
So, I ended up having my son and he's 7 now, but that had a huge shift in my life, to say, okay, I'm going to leave the military and the government behind because I can't take a little baby with me to Afghanistan. So I was like, okay, I need to shift. So I said, well, I'll go into the private sector. Let's see what I can do there. And I was hired by some Fortune 100 company right out the gate doing information security, which led me into a lot of financial and digital payments space. And for the last 8 years, I've learned, I'm going to age myself here if everybody does the math. I've learned digital payments and I just took everything that I could possibly obtain, right? And said, wow, this is another passion that I found outside of flying, outside the military, outside of what I thought my purpose for my life was. And it was a whole, we find ourselves in these seasons of life that you have to constantly redefine who you are or what you want to do. And I found myself in that season. I mean, I came from a very structured environment and now I have a new baby, a new career outside of the military. And I was on my own and I did all this on my own. So it was a lot of like, all at once. And I had to be pretty scrappy to figure it all out. And like, okay, where do I belong? Where do I fit? How do I define this? So
and like
it was,
most people wouldn't see the immediate bridge of, man, my passion is being a helicopter pilot in the military. Digital payments. Now we're talking like the way you said that when you lit up. You got to watch this one on YouTube, people, if you want to see this, because Karla's face, like eyes lit up. She's like, the way you said digital payment was like the way I say my child's name. Like, so it kind of looked like why, like what in the world is like, why is that passion like for digital payments? Was it like just cool, or was it just like was it the mechanics of it? Like you working at these companies that are like processing and taking these digital payments, or you see this mechanism working. It is fascinating. Like, I mean, if you think about it, like when we grew up, and I'll date myself here, you know, I'm an 80s baby, man. I didn't have we'd have dollar bills, y'all. That's all we had. And like, so like we exchanged money, we wrote checks, like, but now it's just like, you pull out your phone and wave it at the Starbucks person and you have coffee. Like, it's crazy. Like when you think about how the digital payment architecture all like works, that makes our life go every day. Like, what fascinated you by it when you first saw that?
I don't know, to be honest.
As with all of our loves and passions in life, who knows? I don't know. I was just made this way.
I don't know. I just thought it was cool. And then I started learning all the technology and the cybersecurity behind it. And I was like, so I'm a real nerd, right? Like behind the facade, I love geeking out on stuff. Yeah. And the technology behind it is incredible. And I saw just the way working for these companies that work in this space, right? They're leaders in this space. And I saw the mechanics behind everything. And I said, you know what? There's a better way to do this. And I saw an opportunity of, you know, a lot of this information and a lot of the education isn't getting down to the right people. It's not getting to the business owners, to the enterprises. Everybody thinks, and I started talking with people. So my parents were business owners and I started talking to some of their friends and they're like, it's all the same, right? And I was like, no, it's not all the same. And I realized there's an education and knowledge gap on what everybody thinks it is and what it actually is and how you can use that to, you know, increase all of your business stuff. And that fascinated me. And I think mainly because I found another avenue to help people that I saw.
And you could reach out to the whole world with this because digital payment is the way the world works. So like anyone who's taking digital payments, like can use that, like the information and knowledge you have. And like, I didn't we thought that in the beginning too. Like people don't realize the first thing you must do is be able to take a payment. If you can't take a payment, you don't have an online business. You just don't. You don't even have a real world business if you can't actually process the payment. Like, and we don't think about it when we're buying stuff. Yep. But man, when you own a business, like that's the thing that can take you down. I've learned that more than anything else is if you wake up and something happened to your payment processor. Like, let me tell you two things that happened to us with the payment process. This is why I'm kind of obsessed with this topic right now. Okay. And then I want you to tell me all about this world. So one time we had our payment processor just stop. We're not going to let you take payments anymore. And I was like, oh, you can do that? Like, that's not cool. Like, why? And then it was like, yeah. And they just turned it off. And I was like, we can't take payments. Like, we went for, and then we had to, that's when we realized one time we actually got 2 or 3 payment processors at once because we were like, if one goes down, the other one can be put on fast. And so that was like the first thing I was like, oh, they have all the power. That's who has all the power. And then the second time we went and did an event, we did a live event like a year ago. This just happened a year ago. And we had a really good event. And we hit like 50K on the event on a weekend. And so we got $50,000 but then everything froze and they held our money for 60 days. And they never told us why. Just never told us why.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, this is a place in our business I have not paid proper. Oh, I know sales and I know marketing and I know customer service and I know podcasting and I know all these things, but I have not properly paid attention to maybe the most powerful part of the chain, right? Like the actual taking payment. Like, I didn't know they could do that, right? So like, do you see that happen a lot? Or did you know, why do they have so much power, first of all? Like, why do payment processors have so much control over everything?
Well, the top ones that we go to, right? I mean, they control your money. And so the top ones that everybody knows, and I won't name them here, but
Yes, we'll call them Fred and Bob. Fred and Bob. There you go.
They don't know. They can shut you down at any time for any reason, and they don't have to give you a reason. And they will just hold your money. And they'll just say, oh, it looks suspicious. Oh, it looks this. And it's not necessarily true. It's because they're aggregators. So when you go with some of the top three, all they are is you don't have a real merchant account with them. So they're just processing payments, right? But they don't do any risk management. They don't look at anything else. You don't go through the process that you go through with me and my company to do underwriting, to do a level risk management.
Oh, I see. There's layers to it then. There's layers to it.
To protect you and your business.
Oh, so there's a big entity that's processing that has omnipotent power over the financial system, basically. And then the companies like you're the people that you protect companies like us from getting into these situations where your payment gets screwed up or getting into it like that.
Yeah, or I get you out of it.
Yes, or who to talk. Like that was the hardest part about the whole situation is because we had no one to talk to. We had nobody to ask questions to. It was just the way it was, and you didn't get that money. And thank God we use capital and we have lines of credit and things like that. So we just waited for the money, basically. But so there's a layer to this. There's the big layer, then the U layer, and then the merchant layer. Is that what it is? Like us? Is there three layers to how financial payments are kind of working? The big processors, then you, or is there more to that?
No, there really isn't. So I do all direct stuff. So I cut out the middleman, right? What we're trying to do is redefine all the payment processing for companies, right? If you think about it, it's literally the bloodline of your business. If that stops, so does your business. And usually when people set up a business and they're like, okay, I have this great idea, or I'm going to do this, they just kind of go, okay, well, I'm going to go with the top three that I know. And because everybody goes to them without realizing that's not an actual merchant account. And think of it as you're sharing this account with 200 other people. And at the end of the day, you get a spreadsheet sent to you on, your monthly stuff. But that's not a true merchant account. There's no risk management involved. There's no PCI compliance, maybe, or
what's PCI? What is PCI compliance for everybody listening? What does that mean?
Sorry. So it's just the security stuff, right? So if you're in the banking industry, it's PCI DSS that you just have to make sure it's another regulation that you have to make sure that you're compliant with. And all the big ones, they technically do have it, but we ensure that you will always have things. And there's a lot of the stuff on the back end, right? That you don't have to go through when you just, open an account and it's free. But then you start looking at things and you're like, why is so much money being taken out of my stuff? And here we go.
Yeah, for real.
Education and the knowledge going, everybody thinks that 2.9% and 30 cents a transaction is what it's at. And that's not true. And nobody is really talking about, you don't have to pay that. You have options.
Wait, hold on. Stop. Hold on now. Hold on. Wait, let me make sure I heard this correctly. Wait, so when you sign up for we'll just use I'll say PayPal or something, whatever. It doesn't matter. Stripe, any of these things that we use, whatever. When you sign up for things, they take a fee, a merchant fee, right? It's like we actually just calculated as 3.5% in our books because it's just so much easier to take out. Because if you have one thing that's 2.9 and one thing that says we just do it that way. That way there's extra money. It's like taxes. You save a little more than you actually owe, right? Did you just say you don't have to pay all that? How is that possible? We started a company a year ago with some partners, right? And that was the first thing we wrote down because we were trying to figure out what profit margins could look like working backwards. And we were like, well, if we do $1 million, well, you take out the 3.5. Let's just take that out. Let's take out 3, right? That's the merchant fee. That's what it is. And then it's who's going to process that? Who's going to eat that? Who's going to take that, right? I didn't have to have that conversation. Is that what you're telling me right now?
You could have had a different conversation where you're not paying $30,000 on $1 million just to process a credit card.
Yes. Okay. What happens then, just at a high level? Why do they charge that? And then why can I have a different conversation where I can get less taken out, basically? Like, how does that work?
They charge it because they mark it up. So here's the little secret that nobody wants to tell anybody, and where I see an opportunity to talk about this and educate everybody, right? Saying there's certain buy rates that come out from all the banks, the credit card companies. This is how much it costs to use a Visa, a MasterCard. Amex is always going to be higher than everybody else. And it's a standard rate. It comes out April, October. It's literally a standard rate. In what these big companies do, and we'll just say it since you opened the door. So Stripe and PayPal, they go,
my fault. Stripe and PayPal, please don't shut down my accounts. Please, God, don't shut down my accounts.
It's okay. I got you.
We're good. You got to figure it out.
So they go, okay, 2.9, 30 cents. Everybody look across the board. Everybody's charging 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. And and what nobody's talking about is you don't have to pay that. It's marked up because they're making money on it, and they're taking a huge chunk out of your profit. We have eliminated some of this, but it depends on your business and the business type. We've been able to eliminate that completely for business owners. We've been able to, I just had a recent client who has e-commerce, so she does everything online. And we were able to cut all of her stuff in half. Like, you don't have to pay that. And that's what, that's my message, right? Like, come to us. We will literally cut it in half. We will take a look at it. And it's so much more than just set it and forget it, right? We look at everything that you're doing. We look at the numbers, we look at the financials, and we tell you, you don't have to. This is how much that we can save you. And it's still the same stuff. You'll still have the same options.
We will do high volume a lot of times. Like we've done, we're getting into like $1 million a month territory sometimes. You know what I mean? That's like $400,000 a year just in the merchant fees.
720. It's 720. You're doing $1 million a month.
Well, that's right. Hold on. I did my math wrong because you said half and I calculated it wrong.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody forgets about the transaction fee, right? So it's 30 cents per
so that adds up too.
If you're doing 100,000 transactions a month, that's $30,000. So that's $60,000 on 1 million a month on a 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. That's $720,000 a year that you could be putting back in your pocket, or we could cut it in half. And that's money.
Our expenses are not that much to make that much. Like, so it's like it could fund your whole business could just be funded by getting the fees back.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, okay, you're blowing my mind here. This is
because nobody's talking about it. And I'm like, I will. I will go and blow this whole thing up.
Okay, so I have flown a helicopter with missiles attached to it, people. This is happening right now. Yes. So your company is called Phoenix Payment Processing, right? So what does it mean to go to Karla and she has a payment processing company? How does that work compared to some of these other things that are charging these maddening rates now that I'm very mad. I'm getting angry. I think my ears are hot. Like I'm feeling my ears right now. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, why am I so mad about this? How much can I get my money back from the last 10 years? That's what I want to know.
Right.
Like, what's the difference between like you and them? Like, how does that work? The smaller companies or whatever.
So first, you're going to have a direct line to me, right? So what other company can you go to that you have a direct line to the CEO and the founder to talk about your business? And we talk about your business and we tailor a solution. So everybody thinks that for, let's say, memberships and subscriptions, you need to go use Stripe because Stripe's one of the best. Well, we have a same solution that can do the same thing, the recurring billing, the membership stuff. And you don't have to pay the 2.9. We just transitioned a client. So what I do, I have partnerships with about 25 different banks. I have partnerships with a bunch of different gateways, point of sale systems, you name it, virtual terminals, you name it. And the reason that I do that is so I'm not closed, right? I'm not just one thing. I'm an independent. I have partnerships all over and I get things for cost. So, and I have a direct merchant agreement with a processing company. So I set the rates for you guys and for your company, and they're my tech team, and they're kind of like my banking, and they do all the back end work for me. They do all the tech stuff for me. They deploy, any equipment that you have. They do all the underwriting for your account, and you have direct support from them. You'll never have a 1-800 number. And if you can contact me, I have people texting me saying, hey, I have this issue. And I said, okay, let me figure it out for you. And if I can't, I'll have the tech team call you. No problem. I'm like a broker, right?
Oh.
So I broker these relationships and I get you the best deal possible. I set your rates for you. And I basically tell, the bank, this is what you're going to pay. And I don't let you get bullied around from all these other things. And I tell you straight up, listen, if we can do it, we'll do it. And if we can't, then I'll tell you, I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to build a relationship and make sure that your business has the financial success that it can have. There's no reason for businesses to be paying an astronomical fee.
Some businesses have like a 10-15% profit margin. If you're giving away 3 of that at the beginning, like that just like gets you to getting by, basically, This reminds me of when we started doing live events, we hired a live event coordinator. It reminds me of this a little bit in a weird way, because the live event coordinator, like Amber, spent all day, every day with hotels. Like she just knew how to talk to hotels. I didn't know how to talk to hotels. I was just like, how much does it cost to do a live event? And they're like, this is how much it costs. I'm like, that sounds good, I guess, because that's not what I do every day. Like I don't do that every day. But like it's like when you're immersed in it and you're geeked out about it, like that's when you understand how to figure out the deals and figure out how to do things. And what an amazing whacked out solution you've figured out. Like ideas for businesses is insane. I think really all entrepreneurship is finding something you can geek out about. Because when you find, it doesn't even matter what it is. It's like, if you can just, I may start saying that when I teach people stuff. Like when you find a thing that you geek out about, you better slow down and look at it, because there's probably money to be made in anything you geek out about. Yeah. And like you kind of found this thing, you're like, ooh, I could geek out about this. And then you're like, say what? Because you dig deep enough to find the solution, right? Yeah. When you can geek out about something, you dug deep enough to figure out you're paying what? Let's talk online, because most of the people listening to me are online business owners. Okay. Yeah. You'll find something like Kajabi or ClickFunnels or Infusionsoft or whatever, right? And they all tell you they have these preferred merchant accounts. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it is. I don't know. Like, how do you find those solutions for that? Like, to get people connected to these things? Like, is it a Zapier situation? Is it just something else? How do you find the right solution that saves the money, but it also fits the tech that someone might be using to like make order forms or sales pages with?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have a lot of integrations with different platforms for e-commerce. And some of the biggest ones that we work with is WordPress and Woo. And so we integrate with them, and we try to get everybody driven. If you have it built on a certain platform that we can integrate with, I'll let you know. But if it's built on something else, or you're using like a Shopify account, which, I don't recommend, is, let's move it off of that, because you're just throwing away money. So we look at our integrations in our tech team, knows the integrations that we have, or if you need a proprietary code built out, we can do that too, to make it seamless and easy for these e-commerce businesses to take payments, and where you're not having to be hosted on a third-party site, right? So, do
you find this works? Do you find that a lot? Is it a lot of e-commerce people that are getting really destroyed by these big payments? Because e-commerce is physical stuff. You're doing a lot of different ordering and things like that.
Yeah.
Is that where the space is like really getting destroyed? You know what I'm saying?
I think it's everywhere, to be honest. So I work with so many different industries, and it is literally across the board. E-commerce, absolutely. Because everybody goes to Stripe. To be honest, everybody is using Stripe because it's easily integratable. And I'm sitting here going, I could get you the same thing, for half the cost, and you don't have to throw your money away. But I get it, because when you're starting out, you just go to what you know or what your friend is using.
It's the first 10 results on Google at that point.
Exactly.
It. It's like, what's on the first page? This must be the best. I don't know. Is that an ad? I can't tell.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what's going on? Yeah.
So, and like back to the integrations and stuff, we have solutions that do over 250 shopping carts that we can integrate with. So, I'm always solutioning, right? This is what I'm good at. If you have a medical problem, you go to a doctor. You don't go to a lawyer, and it's like, you go to an expert who knows this field. Like, I don't know anything about marketing or anything else, right. And it's like, I have to go to somebody. That's what coaches
are for.
Yeah, exactly. Like I need a lot of things too.
Yes. So. Trust me. I just paid $25,000 for a book coach because I've been trying to write this stupid book for like a year and a half on my own. And I really quickly realized I am a podcaster and do not know how to write a book. And it was not working. And I'm like, I've got to hire somebody. I've got to go hire the best person I know from my friends who does this, because I actually have a rule. If I have a coach who doesn't have a coach, that is not my coach. Yeah. Because we all are all have holes in our armor big time. Right. And so we have to like work together to figure those things out, or you're just going to get totally bamboozled. Tell me about your team real quick. You've said this a couple of times, and I want to make sure that people kind of get this. Team building is the thing. It's like the jam. Like the only way to, I had a buddy of mine, his name's Randall. He's a capital investor. Like he finds capital for businesses.
Gotcha.
And he works with some ballers, like people that are your goals kind of people. Right. Yeah. And he said the only people I've seen to succeed at that level learned how to leverage one of two resources, or both, capital and people. Right. Mm-hmm. And building your team is very interesting because like your business is so unique, everyone's, that people look for that. Well, who should I hire first? Well, like that depends. It's your business, right? So it sounds like, and I'm just guessing here because you said this a couple of times, it sounds like you realized the team you needed to build was this tech and integration and making sure people could deploy the payment processing, right? Is that true? Like, how is that the way you've built your team in this space? Is just to like you've went after the tech route, like getting people to help you with that kind of stuff, or like what other things does your team look like at a Phoenix Payment Processing?
So my mentors actually built the team, and they are the leading experts in this field. And I access the team. They are amazing. I have access to them. They're incredible. We're a payments company. However, we're very tech forward because this is where we're going. And I think we all realized it when the pandemic hit, that tech and digital payments is the wave, right? We're on the cutting edge of stuff.
We're not going to use money. We're not going to use money in 10 years. We're not. If you have dollar bills and you have checks, bye-bye, you're getting left behind because no one's going to take them eventually. That's just the way we're going. Yeah, exactly.
So we're on this cutting edge of something, right? But the whole team aspect is they built out the most incredible team that I have access to. And everybody is on top of it, right? And my personal team is actually my family. So the personal,
that's great.
Yeah. And it's my mom and dad, and they are my CFO and they are my COO. And they have built businesses.
I've never heard anyone call that the coup.
I call
that
is
amazing. My wife Jocelyn is my coup. She's the COO. That is hilarious. Why have I never heard anyone say that before?
Really?
I cannot unlearn what you just taught me, Karla. Like the tapping into the team is incredible because I thought for 10 years that I had to build everything myself, the team.
Right.
But what's cool is the reason we're doing so high revenue is because we partner with a live event company. They do all the live eventing, but I tap into that team. They're my live event team. Like I'm the CEO of my company. I'm a partner with them, a strategic partner, and we tap into that. So when I need my team to go somewhere, they schedule it. When we need rooms, they schedule it. That's their thing. I don't have to build that thing. And then partnerships in general. But the sales team, they do all the training, they do all the paying, they do all the commissions, they do all those things. Like we just lead the product side, we're the fulfillment side, we're the speaking side, right? And like, it's so crazy when you get higher up in entrepreneurship and business, you realize like, oh, I don't have to build every single thing myself.
Yes,
I can, my team is partnerships. My team is alignment. My team is other people outside. I just have to have my core team. I just have the people that support me in X, Y, and Z, but A through J or whatever can be tapping into partnerships and mentorships and all these other things. And you can work together to like do like 10X everything, right? Like I could not have even built the thing we're doing now, but they had the expertise. So they built it and I just tapped into that. And then they could not come close to what we built, it fulfilling at Flip Lifestyle, helping people with entrepreneurship and online business. So they tap into us. And that's the way, that's a powerful lesson. Like tapping into and thinking of team as more than just my W-2 employees.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's those partnerships that you build that can take you to the next level, and vetting those teams, making sure that it's the right fit, and making sure that they're as passionate about growing and scaling your business as you are, because nobody's going to take care of your business like you, and nobody is going to handle it the same way as you, because it is like your baby, right? You want to raise it right. Yeah. You want to grow it up. And so one day it could just, leave the house and be good to go. Yeah. But it's like raising a kid almost.
It's 100%. Yes. 100%. If you were going to give someone a tip as they're getting in, like there's a lot of people that listen to my podcasts who are not started yet, and they're going to find out very quickly that whatever they sign up, they start building their website, they're going to have a payment processor, right? What's the biggest piece of advice to people of going out there and when they're picking their payment processor from you guys?
I would say the biggest thing is if you're building the website, make sure that it allows a lot of different integrations. You want to be able to scale it. You want to be able to, you might have one idea right now, but what's your 5-year roadmap look like? How big do you want to grow? And is that platform going to be able to handle it? And can you evolve as technology evolves? Are you able to have Apple Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, PayPal, all those different payment types on your platform? Because the two biggest things that consumers get frustrated with when they're shopping online is a super slow website and a awful checkout experience. And they don't have like the payment option that you want as a consumer. So I would say take a hard look at that and then give me a call. I'm so happy just to even help people and just help them figure it out and navigate this on what is going to be the best fit for them. Yeah. I don't mind. That's what I love doing, because the more I have had so many people, you and I both, nobody's built their business on their own. They've leaned into other people. They've leaned into people who have gone ahead of them, and we all learn from each other. If somebody has helped me along the way, my mentors have helped me, my other friends who own businesses have helped me in certain spaces free of charge. It's knowledge, and it's a community of sharing this knowledge of, hey, I know you do this. What do you think about this idea? What do you think would work best? I'm so happy to help people and guide them into making the right decision. Whether you go with me or you don't go with me, it's no big deal. I'm happy just to be friends and have that connection and help you where you need help. That's what life is about. To me, it is. Yeah.
I heard a great quote about this that said the lowest risk strategy. Oh, who said this? I hate to not quote this because I want to give credit to whoever said this. The lowest risk strategy is always to ask for help. Yeah. And people feel like it's the highest risk strategy because people might say, no, I don't want to help you. But honestly, I don't think I've ever asked anyone in the entire online industry for help and to answer a question or anything. I cannot think of anyone who has ever said no to me in the last 10 years. And that's just true. That's just the way it is. That's why things like Flip Lifestyle and your payment processing company exist, is because the goal is to get people to say, hey, I need help. And I'm like, cool, we can help you with that. So it is always the lowest risk strategy. So, all right, I'm going to wrap that up because we're going to geek out too far. But like, how can people find you online if they wanted to reach out for your help, Karla? Because this has been a fascinating discussion about payment processors.
You guys can go to my website. It's www.phxpp.com.
phxpp.com to learn all about payment processors. And then maybe you could be like me and not blindly going alone and having all of your money frozen and stopped. So, all right, Karla, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I know people are going to absolutely love this episode because it seems like the simplest, most mundane topic. And now you've exploded my brain. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me, Shane. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, that wraps up my interview with Karla Dembik. Man, check her out online over at PHXPP. That's Phoenix Payment Processing, phxpp.com. And you can follow her on social media at PHXPayPros. My hope is that you take what you learned today and you go and you process a ton of payments, that you just become the most successful person processing payments and taking payments that's ever went through the Flip Lifestyle community, because we love to see those amazing success stories because, hey, we learn from you when we see our students do amazing things. My ears are open. I'm listening. I do not have a monopoly on all knowledge. I want to know what's working for everybody else. And that's why every single week we have a student spotlight in the Flip Lifestyle community where we take an amazing member of our coaching program, an amazing member of our community, someone who's going through our courses, going through our trainings on how to start, build, and grow an online business. They come on, they share their story, and our other members get to ask them questions so they can find that success as well. And we recently had an amazing success story from Flip Lifestyle community member Francine Ivy. Francine is an awesome member of the Flip Lifestyle community. She is an action taker. She's always out there going the extra mile, building her website, doing her coaching. She's recently added courses and memberships and all this amazing stuff. And she does what you're supposed to do. She goes into the blueprint. She looks through our training. She takes action on the courses. She asks questions on coaching calls. And she serves and supports other members while she's doing it on her own. And she recently had some incredible success in her online business. And our head coach over at Flip Lifestyle, Delyn, got to sit down with Francine and talk to her about it. So let's keep this momentum going that we've got going on the Flip Lifestyle podcast right now with this week's Student Spotlight, Francine Ivy.
Thank you, Francine, for being here. Take it away.
So, little background. I am a business and life coach. I spent 27 years in full-time ministry. My husband and I church started. I spoke at women's things. We did marriage conferences, all of that kind of stuff. God pivoted me through a tragic accident where I lost my husband, and I won't go all into that deep story, but if you want to see that story, that's on consumedbythecall.org. And, just crumbling to the floor and telling God, I trust you, even though right now it doesn't feel like I can and my circumstances aren't pointing to it, but I trust you. And if you'll use it for your glory, I'll keep walking. And so I got up off the floor and God took me up on it. So through just different things happening in my life at that point, God led me into coaching and started off life coaching, got that certification. I'm a workaholic, so I have 4 or 5 certifications in coaching. I just kept taking them and I love it. I love speaking into people's lives. God took the life coaching, turned it into business coaching. I learned a lot in the corporate realm, coaching Fortune 500 company leaders. And I remember at one point, I was about 3 months into my corporate job, and I literally had 10 different industries I had never been a part of. How do you coach people you've never been a part of? You had to lean on coaching. I had to lean on that coaching works, right? You ask the questions, the aha moments is really powerful. And so God led me in March to step out of the corporate realm and start my own faith-based coaching program. And that's exactly what I did. But I reached that limit of 1-to-1, right? I wasn't willing to continue to trade hour for hour. And I knew something else. God was about to pivot me and move me. And of course, I went to Life Surge, just watching. It was a Facebook ad, right, that popped up. And I was like, something resonates. I need to go to Life Surge. And out of all the speakers, Shane, and his story and his authenticity and the simple message of 50 people, 100 people willing to pay you $50. I was like, okay, wait a minute. There's a message in this, and immediately knew I'm about to, and I want you to hear my words, invest in myself. And that's the first thing that you have to do if you're going to be successful, is to realize you invested in you and what God's planted in you. Okay. And then number 2, trust the process. Trust the process. I've been doing this a long time, and there have been things that I've heard, and I was challenged to do it a little different, to pivot what I was actually doing before. Right. And guess what? I trust the process. If I expect my clients to come to my Zoom calls, to come to my sessions and be coachable and be willing to change and be committed to the process, then I knew I better be the same way. We have 17 members right now and growing. Right now I'm in, I've built out. I feel like, well, no, I don't feel like it. I know I have a fantastic, amazing product. Now I'm in marketing mode. Be active in the forum. Come to these things. I mean, I have a very busy client schedule, but I show up to everything that I can show up to because I want to learn this culture. The best way for me to get things done is to not just do the things, but to let it be a part of my DNA. I want to be a flipped life, right? I want to be a part of this community. And the quickest way, the things that I see are the people who've been a part, who've bought in further than just doing. So I'm just going to leave you with this. Just take action and do it messy and scared. It'll get better. Right? We get more confident with experience. We get more confident as we learn. Trust the process. This is a tried and true process. No matter where you've come from or what you think right? Just trust the process. And then I just think, man, if someone else can get 4,000 members, 1,000 members, 100 members, I can do the same thing. I'm just going to do the same process.
All right, guys, what an amazing student spotlight on this week's Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. Absolutely love not only seeing our people go out and do great things, but coming back and helping the community and sharing that knowledge. Service is what it's all about inside of Flipped Lifestyle. And I love to finish up the podcast by serving you guys. I love to answer some questions from our community on the air. I know if one person asks a question, everybody's got the question. And I love answering questions from our members inside of the Flipped Lifestyle community. So before I go, I got a couple questions here that I just want to go over. Our first question comes from Kareem. Kareem says, I am changing my marketing strategy. I'm going to start a podcast. I want this to be how my customers enter into this world, but I need some help. What kind of content, what kind of messaging, what kind of stuff should I have on my podcast to motivate more people to come and take advantage of my courses and my community? Thank you so much. Gracias, Kareem. That's from Kareem Marato, one of our rock star members. She's been on the Flip Lifestyle Podcast as a student in Spotlight, as a guest before. So you need to go check that out. But this is a great question. Like, a lot of times in our businesses, we change strategies. We do a new thing and we start especially a new piece of content. We wonder, what in the world am I going to say on this content, especially a podcast? Like, how does podcasting work? How do you get people to hear your message and listen? How do you stay focused on a podcast? And how does that podcast become something where people want to tune in every week? How do they come and get on your email list from your podcast and then eventually buy your courses, buy your coaching, buy your community? Like, how does that actually work? Like, what do you talk about? What do you say on the podcast? Well, I've got some pretty easy rules that I follow on the Flip Lifestyle Podcast or any podcast that I do. And I think it's why our podcast has done so well. I think it's why so many people love tuning in every single week and listening to the show, is because we focus on these very specific things. Number one, the first thing I try to do is just be as authentic as possible. Like, I literally just want to have a conversation. I try to forget that there is a microphone in front of my face. I don't sit down and go, I'm about to record the podcast and this is going to be, do I have a checklist? Yes. Am I organized? Yes. Do I have a general theme that I want to focus on in the conversation? Of course I do. Just like I would if I was meeting a friend at the coffee shop to sit down and talk about a topic. Hey, you want to come and study the Bible together? Sure. Hey, you want to come talk about parenting and marriage? Sure. Hey, did you hear about so-and-so? Let's figure this out and figure out how can we help that person. Let's talk about it. We have a theme that we go into, but I don't really pigeonhole myself into like where this thing's going to go. I just try to make it as authentic as possible. So whether I'm doing a solo show or whether I'm doing a conversation with someone else, I just try to keep it as authentic and real and down to earth as possible. And if you do that, what happens is you get to actually be yourself. You don't want people to fall in love with your content. You want them to fall in love with you and the conversations that you have and the things that you have to say and the message, the mission, the purpose behind your company, right? But you can't do that if you're trying to script too much, or if you're trying to plan everything out and try to make it the perfect podcast. So the first thing I would do is like be authentic. The second thing is I always keep it focused on my business. I always keep it focused on my customers. I always keep it focused on the issues that my people have, not the issues that I have. Does that make sense? Like, so if I'm, Kareem teaches homeschoolers how to teach their kids Spanish, right? So she's looking for people who want to speak Spanish as a second language. And she will come in and be like your virtual instructor. So if we were planning Kareem's content over the next 12 weeks, I would make sure that, the half or more of her podcast every week was talking about her actual customers, talking about her actual students. Your goal as the star of your podcast is not to shine a bright so light that people look directly at you. It's to shine a light so bright that you may get their attention, but then you move the starlight, you move the spotlight to your customers, to the people you serve, to the people that you help. That's why we love answering questions on our podcast. That's why we have our own members of our community on the podcast in Student Spotlight. It's why we even do full-blown interviews with our people so that we can talk to them about what made them successful. The more you can focus that spotlight on others and not yourself, the easier it will be to create content. If you do interviews, you can just have a conversation. If you do solo shows, you can just tell other people's stories. And that's always a whole lot easier than just talking about yourself. Like, I never have to worry about what I'm going to come up with on this show. The amazing people in our community write it for me. So be super authentic and then focus it on your students, on your customers, on others as much as possible. And finally, be enthusiastic. You've got to learn how to turn your enthusiasm switch on if you're going to be a great podcaster and if you're going to know what to talk about. And if you love your topic, this is why we're so focused on finding those passions, finding those loves, finding those things you've learned, those things you've lived through, finding your idea, make it your idea. Like, don't try to replicate anybody else. When you pick your idea, you can be enthusiastic about it. Think about Karla Dembik. She came on, she was geeking out and enthusiastic about payment processing. Now, most people don't geek out about that. I geeked out about it because I thought she could save me some money on my payment processing. But like, she was geeking out about her topic. You could feel the enthusiasm that she had from our conversation today through that process. So bring that enthusiasm. If you're just authentic and you just have real conversations and you're focused on the needs and the wants of your students and your customers and you're enthusiastic about it, like, the content will flow. The things will come out of your mouth and you won't have to worry so much about what you're going to say. And also remember, everything you say is the first thing anyone's ever heard you say about that topic. There is no right answer. Like, you've never said anything on a podcast before, so go say something on a podcast, and that's way more right than nothing. Our final question today comes from Jennifer. Jennifer says, I'm fairly new to online business, and I'm wondering what we're going to charge for our membership. My husband has a PhD, and we're trying to bring philosophy to families and kids for homeschoolers. We were thinking about $29 a month to start. We're not sure if this is correct. We don't want to set the price too high, but we also don't want to set it too low. How can we get our price right? Okay, this is a very common question that everyone asks. And one of the things that we do inside the Flipped Lifestyle community is we have a forum and we have coaching. And inside of that forum and inside of that coaching, we will literally discuss your particular price for your product. We have helped thousands of people figure out those prices. So if you want to talk about your specific product, your specific niche, your specific industry, your specific price, head over to flippedlifestyle.com. Check it out. You can get into the Flipped Lifestyle experience. You can check out our forums and you can ask these kind of questions that are specific to your niche. But in general, here's what I tell almost everybody, as we come up with it. The price you set is your first price. And there is zero chance of you getting it right out of the gate. Like, shouldn't even be a goal, right? We definitely need to have a discussion to figure out your first price. Some niche markets need $5 a month. Some of them need $100 a month. Some of them need $1,000 a month. We can definitely get in the ballpark, but we won't know until you press go, right? Like, the market is going to tell you what you're allowed to charge. Now, you can research that. We have courses and tools where you can research your industry, research your space, see what the general prices are, what's the average price point, the median price point of people in your space. That'll give you, there are some guidelines and things you can do to come up with a better first price. But man, you've got to pick a price and put it out in the marketplace and let the market react to it. If nobody buys your stuff, it could be price, it could be offer. There's other levers that we've got to pull before we just say, oh, I charge too much, or oh, I charge too little. But we cannot understand what to charge unless you actually put the price out there. I think that for a homeschool niche, what I've seen, $29 a month would be a great place to start, Jennifer. But for your particular way you do things, someone may pay you $99 a month for that. Maybe they've got more than one homeschool kid and you can charge them per kid. It may be a thing where we just need to say, oh, you know what? This particular niche in homeschool is only $9 a month. So nobody bought it at $29, but the offer was good. And people who bought it actually loved it, but we couldn't get enough sales. We might need to lower it. We don't know until you go. If you're stuck right now and you've got something you can sell and you're like, I just don't know what to charge for it, pick something, come into the community, talk about it in the forums, but we got to get a first price. That is not the price that will stay. Not one single thing we sell today is the same as it was in 2014. It always changes. It's always moving. The economy is going to make you raise your price, lower your prices. The most important thing is that you have a price and then it's in the marketplace and someone has a chance to buy it. If you do that, you'll give yourself a success. If you wrestle with this question forever, you won't even be able to do it. You know, a lot of people say, I'm a perfectionist. I want to get the perfect price. And then I ask them, I say, well, what are you charging now? And they say, oh, nothing. I have not put a price out there yet. Well, if you look up the definition of to perfect, it means to take something that already exists and move it toward perfection. So if you have not put a price on your product, if you've not created your product, if you've not released it into the world, you're not a perfectionist. I hate to tell you this, you're a procrastinator. Stop procrastinating. Stick your price on your product and let's see if someone buys it. And then let's ask them what they think about what they bought. And then let's make decisions on how to raise the price or lower the price to sell more in the future. All right, y'all, we have some great questions today. Super awesome to celebrate that student spotlight. And what an amazing guest we had on today's Flipped Lifestyle podcast. Hope you guys got a ton of value out of it and learned something that could take you to the next level. As always, if you need more help with your online business, if you're ready to go out there and find your idea, start building and grow an online business of your own, head over to flippedlifestyle.com, FLIPPED lifestyle.com. We have tons of free resources to help you find your idea, to help you get started. And we have an amazing community just dying to support you and ready to go. So if you're ready to stop listening and start doing, head over to flippedlifestyle.com and check everything out. Before I go, I love to share a little inspiration and motivation in my life with you guys to help you move forward in whatever it is, any desire that God has put in your heart. You can go out and you can achieve it. I'm going to mix it up a little bit today. I'm not just a biblical scholar. I love my Bible. I share a Bible verse pretty much every podcast, but I also love to read inspirational stories, love to read motivation. I love philosophy. And I think there's just so much value out in the world that's really helped me. And I want to start sharing even more of that stuff on the podcast. And one of the things that's made a huge difference in my life over the past 2 years is this book called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world at his time, 2,000 years ago. And, there's a saying in the world that says absolute power corrupts absolutely. But Marcus Aurelius is this exception to the rule. He was just really true, good, and noble emperor. And he has this, there's this book called Meditations. Someone found his journal. It was never meant to be read out into the world. It was never meant to be sold, but they found it and they published it later. And it's just incredible wealth of knowledge and wisdom. There's one section that's amazing where he talks about like he doesn't want to get out of bed because his covers are so warm. And he's like, oh, I just don't want to get out of bed. But like, was I made to stay in bed all day? Like, this is the emperor of Rome. Now, how many times have all of us been through that where we just didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, right? And it's a very relatable book. But he's got this amazing quote in it. And I'm going to read a translation of it here real quick. It says, the mind adapts and converts to its own purpose the obstacle to our acting. The impediment, the obstacle to our action, actually advances our action. What stands in the way becomes the way. And there's some translations of this particular passage say, the obstacle is the way. And I think about that in my own life. I always look at things, for years I looked at things, I was like, oh, it's an obstacle. Oh, it's a fear. I would have succeeded if that hadn't stopped me. I would have succeeded if that obstacle wasn't in my way. But then like when I read this, I'm like, no, the obstacle is the way. Like think about everything you are in your life. You were probably made that way from overcoming obstacles, from overcoming fear. You became the person that you are and all of its goodness and everything that you have accomplished because you survived, you thrived, you figured out how to survive even though there was an obstacle, to move forward even though there was an obstacle. And if you look at it, at any successful person, any success journey, the obstacle is the way. They chose the path with the obstacle. Maybe they had to go over the obstacle. Maybe they had to go around the obstacle. Maybe they had to tear the obstacle down. Maybe the obstacle was so big that it said, nope, you're going to have to take that other fork in the road. Well, the obstacle was the way. That's just the way it was. But like overcoming the obstacles, like not shirking back from the fear, like moving forward, like, oh, your payment processor holds 50,000. The obstacle is the way. If you want to go out and do $50,000 in a weekend, Shane, you've got to go out and figure out how to get past this payment processor obstacle. And like when you really embrace that, man, you find out there are no obstacles we can't overcome. There's nothing that can actually stop us. I don't have time on my schedule. The obstacle is the way. You're going to have to move some stuff off your schedule to start your online business. I need more money. The obstacle is the way. If you go out and sell stuff online, you'll make more money. The obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the way. Right. And I just love this. It's so inspiring and so motivating to me because it reframes. There are no problems in life now. There are only my next challenges. And I hope that you'll take that too. Take that. The obstacle, whatever obstacles you're facing that are holding you back and stopping you from pursuing your online business dreams, you just remember what Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, I bet he had some problems and obstacles on his desk every single morning. And he looked at them and he said, awesome. The obstacle is the way. I will figure this out and you can figure it out too. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for this week. If you love the Flip Lifestyle podcast, make sure you share this everywhere on social media. Tell a friend about it. And if you really love it, hey, if we're helping you, if we're providing you value, please do us a favor. Go leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Just look up Flip Lifestyle, hit review, tell us what you love about the show. Heck, if you've got a question for me and you want me to read it on the air, I read every single one of our reviews on Apple Podcasts, and I would love to go out and read your question on the air. So leave a review, then at the bottom of it, say, Shane, I got a question that's going to help me move forward my business. Could you read this on air? And maybe I can answer your question right here on the podcast as well for everybody to listen in. All right, guys, that's all the time I have for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I encourage you, get out there, take action. Pick your stone up off the ground, cast it out upon the waters, and cause many ripples. We'll see you then.